Welcome to part 2 of the Dwarfs Abridged in Total War Warhammer 2, playing as the modded faction Greybeard's Prospectors. Last time we went around shooting a whole bunch of Bretonnians, which is always good, and broadly speaking our plan worked, where we stood in checkerboard formations and just shot constantly. Certainly got the job done. We've taken down 2 minor factions, now we're going to go after the major Bretonnian faction in this area, the Repense de Lyonesse faction. I had my suspicions that their main army was actually near some of my core territory because I could see them taking over some ruined places and colonizing them. I came upon the first of them, not much here so we can just steal it after some failed negotiations to get money off the Tomb Kings to join this war. Annoyingly, the auto-resolve did steal one of my units away from me. Aside from that, nothing to say about this one, and no sign of the army I was looking for. But we already have evidence about where it might be, because you can see the next town down the road has been colonized by them as well, so they're probably around there. There's also evidence of battles, these piles of stuff that appear on the map when there's a large battle somewhere. This made me believe that maybe Repense, since she is at war with the Tomb Kings, actually fought them recently, and when we spot her that seems to be confirmed. She's now running back behind us, but she's missing some units, and the units she does have are damaged, so she almost certainly fought a battle and won, but she's now nearly dead, so we can go in and just finish her off. My only goal was to defeat that army so I could then go after their main settlement, which is off to the west. In their turn, they just sort of stood there out in the desert. I tried to go and fight them, but we didn't have the movement points to do it. I really shouldn't have tried doing this, because seeing that we wouldn't engage them this turn, it's almost inevitable that they're going to do, well, what they did do right after. Their army just walks past me and takes the town. Not much we can do about that. At least we now have a full view of their army. It's actually not very good. It's half size and half strength to boot. That means we can just finish them off now, because by taking the town, they're locked in position. Although also they bankrupted me by doing so, thus causing me to take a turn of attrition. Inconvenient, but we're going to reverse that right now. This army is nothing really, we can just auto-resolve it, the same balance bar we saw when we attacked the town without the army here. All good stuff. I thought this might be a bit more difficult, but no, we can just wipe them off the map, probably thanking the Tomb Kings for doing most of the work for us somewhere out in the fog of war. Another upside to all this is that we get this town without having to colonize it and lose a bunch of money and troops doing so, and we can take the other town to the south soon as well. You get this nice bonus for defeating Repense, including plus 10% research rate across the entire faction forever, I guess. That's pretty good, a very nice bonus to get early on, unexpected as well. While the main force goes off towards the objective, our secondary army with just a few units can go and try to fill in the place that the enemy colonized. There's actually a surprising amount of stuff here, but the balance bar was really good, so we just instantly take it. And there's that balance bar thing I mentioned in the first part, where the balance bar sometimes favours us more than I think it really should, or at least battles disfavour us more than it should. Who knows which one it actually is. Suffice to say, we skipped that battle and we probably would have won it if we'd done it manually anyway. Now a bit later, our main force arrives at the destination with no further incident. There's quite a bit of stuff here, but again the balance bar is surprisingly good, especially considering the fact this is a walled settlement with towers and the like. So I was feeling a bit sorry for the Bretonnians. Maybe their units just suck, and I think they do from my prior experience, whereas our units are relatively elite even at the lower level of our army tiers. So we set them under siege. They then sally and the balance bar's even better, so clearly it was taking into account the towers. Now it's overwhelming. In a manual resolve, this would probably be considered an even fight, but we'd also probably win as if it wasn't. And there we go, we've skipped that part. We just took the win. Yes, we've got to that stage in the game playing. Let's just presume I played the game and it all went fine. I think one reason we have such good campaign map balance bars is because we have hybrid units. If you have units that have ranged attacks with quite a lot of ammo, but they also have melee stats like our legionnaires with tons of armor and melee defense, that combination gives you a disproportionate advantage in auto-resolve. Well, who knows the actual workings behind it? I suspect the developers don't even know at this stage, since there were various things that they can't fix about auto-resolve, I seem to recall. Well, we won, that's the long story short there, but some trouble is brewing. the Tomb Kings are suspiciously raiding right outside of that castle. So they clearly are getting some ideas, and we might need to do something about that. Plus, public order is abysmal. We're certainly going to have a rebellion. We're probably going to have more than one rebellion, especially because there's loads of vampiric corruption spread by the Tomb Kings, which will keep public order permanently low, and once it gets bad enough you take attrition anywhere in your own territory as well, although we can use the underway to bypass that as the Dwarfs. Here's some good diplomatic news. The Tomb Kings to our west and south offer a defensive alliance. These guys are aligned against the main Tomb King factions to our east, so if we team up with them, our core is going to be a bit safer against the inevitable hostilities of the other Tomb Kings. Now we also have some issues with the Beastmen, partially caused by me allowing the Beastmen to spawn everywhere. There is a single beast man raiding my territory right now, which gives you the raided territory public order debuff, which is ruining everything. So we take them out with our secondary army and of course start a war with their wider faction. They did have more stuff around that I'd seen before, and other groups had come in and raided recently. So we're going to try and actively defend against them with that secondary army now. I've got this Thane into the field. He's going to be useful because he permanently increases the experience on your dwarves every turn, and if we can get really high experience, that synergizes with some buffs on the faction leader, where you can get massive buffs if you're above rank 7 or something on various units. Can't remember the details. Something good is happening up there passively in the background. Now I spotted an opportunity. I saw another beastman just standing on the edge of our territory, not doing very much. Thought we might as well just go and kill this guy. However, it was a trap. They've got me good here. There's another beastman force with plenty of beastmen in it nearby, so I retreat. We still can't see where that other force was, but clearly it's just there somewhere. I tried to move back to the capital, but we can't make it in time. That's going to be a problem in a second. The main force, meanwhile, is slowly making its way back towards our castle up top. The Tomb Kings have walked off, so that's nice, but now we have a vampire rebellion growing instead, so I'm moving to take them down. Really, that main force could be used down here near the capital, where things are starting to get a bit bad. The Beastmen force moves forward and tries to engage me. That balance bar looked bad, so I ran away. They are going to press this attack though and force a battle, and what's worse, they're going to use one of their Beastman special abilities to turn this fight into an ambush. We should have known they were coming, but no, we now don't even know what they have. We did before. Inconvenient. So this force probably isn't going to have a very good time. It wasn't even the best ambush, we can see in the replay. The enemy's right there. Maybe our guys had their helmets obscuring their peripheral vision, shall we say, and they didn't notice this force of beastmen coming out of the desert. Well, they notice now, but perhaps too late. These harpies will just swarm on us. That's going to stop us shooting, of course, so a good move from the enemy. Although they attacked the front of the column, they probably should have attacked the back, because that's where the better shooters are, these scouts. We can quickly form them up and fire at the harpies. That will kill a few of them. However, soon everything else will charge in and we get this situation, which is completely overwhelmed and swarmed with various things. Nothing especially powerful, I don't think. So our armor will allow us to survive for a long time, but the legionaries are not very good at killing enemies, even when they're weak ones. It's really the scouts that need to do the damage. We're actually in an okay situation with the scouts somehow not being swarmed and able to shoot into the blob. That almost changed right there. Those harpies were about to attack the scouts. They changed their target to go and attack the legionaries instead at the last second. A bad decision from the AI. Although in this case it's not going to make a huge amount of difference because they don't have to do anything clever to kill us. They can just stand around us in a blob and we can't kill all of them. And because it's Warhammer, if we don't kill any full units, we effectively didn't kill anyone in long-term logic. And that is indeed the case. So all of their losses will just be regenerated in a couple of turns. Whereas our army is deleted because it lost a battle after retreating. They don't go on to attack my capital, which was the risk there. Instead, they content themselves to kill some nearby lizardmen and then just stand around. Probably a wrong move from the beastmen. They could have capitalized on that situation. Looks like the vampire rebels are starting a siege. That's not going to last very long because our main force will be able to kill them shortly. I'm going to start another second army nearby in the middle of the valley, It will take a while to get anything useful together that can challenge the beastmen though. Let's quickly take out these vampires so we don't have to worry about this area anymore. Nothing to that, and I think in retrospect the garrison at the castle might have been able to resist because they didn't recruit up to full strength, these rebels. If they'd actually attacked and we had a siege defense, I bet we would have won, so it was kind of a waste having the main force be up here to settle this. I suppose I was also worried about the Tomb Kings. And there's my offensive dreams, which I'm currently doing right now. We're walking towards the Tomb King border. Even with all that trouble back home, I was still thinking of attacking, just because it's very efficient to always be on the offensive with your main force in Total War in general. You tend to gain more by stealing the enemy's core territory than you lose, even if your defenses are really scrappy everywhere else. Well, it all pays off because the beastmen just go away, so that settled that in the end. They walked off somewhere, we don't know where they are anymore, and we'll start rebuilding our second army. Some more trouble has appeared though. An orc force is sitting suspiciously outside one of those Bretonnian places. We're not at war with them, tried to get non-aggression, but they're not going to be interested in that. But suffice to say, this is a bad sign. Now at this stage, I clicked on Khemri, the main Tomb King's faction, and I noticed their strength rank 3. I'm rank 25, which means they have a lot more stuff than me. The rank, I think, is based entirely on how many military units you have. So they have a couple of stacks at the very least. And seeing that made me think maybe I should just kill my allies who are really low rank, lower than 100. And there's a lizardman faction nearby as well that's not going to have very much. There's even a couple of small Tomb Kings factions we could attack separately. Seeing all this, I thought let's actually have a strategic rethink. Let's not attack the main Tomb King faction right now, especially with things looking dodgy across the board. We're going to bring the main force back down south. This will be very inefficient, we're wasting turns just walking long distances. But I thought let's play it safe, maybe it will be worth it, we shall see. In the meantime, we get some trouble from those orcs because they do declare war on us and go for the settlement they're standing outside. Not too much we can do about this, that balance bar's very bad, and realistically, I think it's correct this time, we are screwed, so we'll just take the loss. Annoyingly, they're going to raise this settlement, so that's the end of them, and they can still replenish, because they're a horde faction, they'll keep regenerating as they walk around, so our defense wouldn't have done anything there anyway to their long-term strength. Now for some more bad news, very nearby actually, there's a brayherd spawning. This just means there will be some more beastmen. There was the beastmen army we saw before. They'll then spawn a brayherd, which kind of follows them around. It's like a free, decent army that they get as backup all the time, kind of like the orc war thing going on. Essentially, more enemies are appearing, and I'm making more enemies for myself by attacking the lizardmen as soon as Greybeard gets back. We instantly take what I believe is their capital. So that was easy, there wasn't very much there. They've got a very small army in our territory, that's nothing to worry about, and they have another region to the east. Overall, these guys seem like easy prey, so we're just going to take them down as quickly as possible. Going to use the underway on the way over there to avoid any desert attrition. Their army here could sneak back and potentially take this oasis place, because the garrison won't have fully spawned yet. It's too late to do anything about that now actually, so no point worrying about it. But if I'd thought about that before moving, I could have not moved to counter that risk. Well, it turns out they just went back towards their territory. That's fine by me. Now they're all clustered together there, we can attack them nice and safely. Meanwhile, up north, things are still not going very well because the orcs come and attack another of our Bretonnian conquests. This time we have a few more units in the garrison, and I thought maybe we can do something here. Doing a last stand style defense is only useful if you can defeat an entire unit so it disappears on the campaign map. So you have to keep that in mind. I also had in the back of my mind the thought that maybe we would just somehow win by routing them. Since these units aren't exactly high tier or anything, we might not have to kill very many to win the battle, especially if we can kill their commander or something like that. Starts off with a bit of a skirmish where our guns will be better than the enemy's archers, the orc archers not being very good anyway, plus our legionaries with their 100 plus armor are barely going to take any damage. We can just tank all of their ammo away. This would be fine if their swarms of other things weren't charging at us. Turns out they are charging at us, and this is where this battle is going to start getting quite difficult for us. They've got tons of the boars that can come in around the flanks and just attack our scouts, so we won't be able to do the usual distract and shoot strategy. Plus I think those boar boys have a bonus against infantry, and our armor-piercing damage things like our sentries and our guns are going to be very inefficient against these unarmored anti-infantry units. Not the best situation, suffice to say. There's another wing of boars waiting to come in on the other flank. Looks like they've been slightly preceded by those infantrymen that will lock us down, and then they can do whatever they want to us, really. We've already lost our right flank. Our general goes in to kind of patch that up, but not really. The sentries are an armor-piercing unit. That means they're usually balanced to have low damage and not be very good against normal units, which is what we're facing. Plus, their war boss has gone through the gap, the great weakness in the checkerboard plan. If something walks through the gap, you're in trouble, and here it actually happened. Now he's in amongst our gunners, just killing them off. So this situation just generally gets worse over time. The legionaries held on pretty well. The enemy don't have anything that really damages them much. They'll need armor-piercing damage of their own to kill them, but they killed everything else, caused a chain rout, and that's going to be the end of that. And it was, in retrospect, a waste of time because we did not kill any full units. We were just completely overwhelmed. At least they didn't raise the settlement this time, they just sacked it, so we're going to be able to keep it. With a bit of money, we can pretend all that didn't happen. They do go on to besiege the castle though. That's going to be more difficult to deal with. And there's another siege to worry about. The beastmen with their brayherd are now going to besiege the end of the valley, which is where my secondary army was sitting handily enough, so we have something to defend against them. It's just not a very big army. We've seen something of a switcheroo in the general situation where our main force was at the top, where things were going bad at the bottom. Now the main force is down at the bottom, things are going bad up top. So well played from the AI, they're staying out of my way. I wanted to actually stop the war with the lizardmen because attacking them is kind of a waste of time. I don't care that much. I was starting to think maybe I should go back into the valley and try to defend properly. Since we couldn't get peace, I kind of have to attack them because if I just leave them, then they'll attack my capital. So we have to finish them off for now and hope that something good happens against the beastmen up here. As for the orc siege further north, well, we aren't in a position to do anything about that, so maybe we'll win somehow. The beastmen make an attack in their next turn. They could have done this when they first laid siege, would have been the same for them, but here it is, and that balance bar is not ideal. I actually expected a bit more. Since they have so much trash on their roster, I thought surely they don't count for that much on the balance bar. Well, perhaps not. So again, the mysteries of the balance bar remain. Sometimes I'm calling it too good for us. Here I'm going to call it too bad. Overall, I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't think anybody else does either. The end of this story is that I just accept the bad situation and we get completely destroyed. But then, a critical victory of sorts. They start moving north instead of south. If that group had gone down the valley to attack our core territories, we might not have been able to stop them. But they're going to walk off somewhere else, and that's going to be very useful. But the loss of part of our core territory isn't useful. Well, we'll have to just rebuild it later. For now, need to finish off these lizards, and we're going to have a nice opportunity to do so, because a lot of their stuff was outside the town, and I have just got Lightning Strike, the key ability that I always rush down on the level up tree, because it lets you do stuff like this. We can fight only half of the enemy's stuff. We had a gigantic advantage on the balance bar this time, so we just delete them with virtually no losses, which doesn't really make sense to me. I thought the lizards were quite good and not trashy. Well, the mysteries resume. Basically, we killed everything here with minimal losses, and the losses we did take will be irrelevant because we'll just regenerate those dwarves very quickly. I've also spammed the casualty replenishment options for leveling up as well, which are on the same path as Lightning Strike, so the two best things you can get are all there. It means our guy isn't actually very good as a unit, and he doesn't buff the other troops very much, but that will change now that we have the abilities we need. We'll gradually pick up some buffs and abilities. I actually didn't notice, by the way, that the lizardmen have another settlement to my east. I straight up ignored it. So we'll soon be coming back from this war as if we've won. I didn't notice it was still going on, and we'll just have to come back to that later once it makes itself known to me. Now, some really good diplomatic news comes out of this random offer from our Tomb King allies. They were trying to get me to join a war. I said no, but I thought maybe you guys would like to join my war. I had no expectations about this at all because I can't offer them very much, but a small payment makes them say yes, and it immediately pays off because one of their armies goes to attack the orcs laying siege to us. So here we go, a massive force of relatively cheap skeleton allies. This is definitely worth the 700 gold I paid to get a chance to save this castle, which is probably making us that much per turn. Thank you very much. And of course, if the skeletons were to perhaps die in the battle, that would probably be to our long-term advantage as well. So you know what we need to do. It's time for some ally sacrifice at the start of part 3.